to today's episode where we're going deep into something that's buzzing across every boardroom and back office: artificial intelligence. But not the hype, the actual work. Because at the International Fresh Produce Association, Rachel Blake and Maddie Rennardson aren't just using AI, they're building it to make our industry smarter and help members have needed information at their fingertips. In this episode, we'll talk about how IFPA is using AI to build AI, designing tools that integrate human context and machine learning, and developing member products that go far beyond dashboards. We'll also dig into what motivates Gen Z to buy produce and why Rachel and Maddie believe the real revolution isn't just in data, it's in decisions. So if you've ever wondered how to move from curiosity to capability in your own business, this one's for you. Rachel and Maddie, welcome to the podcast. It's so good to have you.
Thanks, Vonnie. It's
Thank
nice to be
you.
here.
Yeah, great. So, Rachel, let's start at the beginning. What problem were you really trying to solve with AI? Was there a moment where you thought, this is bigger than just dashboards?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something that, quite frankly, lends itself really well to what we do in the organization. Maddie and I are on the global intelligence team at the International Fresh Produce Association. And it means that we're bringing insights and intelligence to a hugely diverse membership base. We have members anywhere from seed developers to growers to distributors, shippers, all the way to the end retailers, marketers, solution providers in between, right? So we have people all along that supply chain touching all different kinds of produce, of which there are hundreds of different varieties that we regularly see at the grocery store every day. And each of those members has very specific business needs. So we've always had a lot of data, right? We have retail sales data for the US markets as well as Europe, Mexico, and Brazil. We also have US production data, we have trade data, we have all these different data streams that come in and that we put together and have traditionally put together in reports, have spoken in webinars about, have individually met with members when they have questions so that we can help them with their specific business challenge. But we have a 2,000 plus membership, right? And that's huge. And we wanted to really democratize access to our data. And we started to do that by building platforms, like you said, dashboards that where members could come and see the data and sort of, change the parameters that they wanted and kind of get back visualizations of what's been happening in the US retail sales market. And that's been really, really positive throughout our membership. But what we learned was people are still need that piece that we can provide, which is interpretation and understanding of how that data fits in context of all of the other data sets and all of the other things that are happening in the produce world, even weather changes, climate issues like that affect the part of the market that they are in specifically. So the diversity of that is amazingly complex, and you know we often meet our capacity on an annual basis when we try to meet all of those needs for our members. AI comes in and gives us the opportunity to create an engine that can do that, right? Can answer questions no matter from anybody anywhere in the supply chain and say, oh, here's how that data connects for you, our member, for you, wherever you are in the supply chain and whatever products you work with. I can help you with that. I can help you not only get the data, but I can also help you interpret it.
It's super powerful because there's
Yes,
there's no way one person knows how to go find all that, much less apply it to themselves, much less, then make decisions on it. So that is
right,
super, super powerful. And not everyone is going to be able to build that.
right.
So one of the more meta things that you're doing is using AI to build AI. Can you explain what that actually looks like and how you guys went about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we realized early on that well, first thing, we're at everyone right now working in AI is at the bleeding edge of what AI can do, right? It's so new. It's this brand new tool that we are just learning how to use. We're just learning um, even the smallest bit of it, the capabilities that we can use it for, right? And so we're all learning in real time. And what we realized very early on was that we wanted to understand it intrinsically ourselves, so that when we were ready to expand, when we were ready to bring in vendors, bring in partners to help us build up our system, that we knew exactly how those parts fit together. And moreover, that we were layering on top of anything that we built the experience that we have with the industry, so that it was meeting the needs that we know our members have and the voices that they will be bringing to any bot we create to answer their questions. And so we also are not computer programmers by trade. We are intelligence people, right? And but what we learned really early on was that as intelligence people, we can ask intelligent questions, and we started doing that with ChatGPT. When we started building out these assistants, learning how to clean data, learning how to get data to speak to our OpenAI assistants, we realized that we could ask ChatGPT or any LLM how to do each part of that. And if you ask it and say, like, here's who I am, i.e., complete beginner, please teach me how to do this part of the system, or do this, execute on this step, it would tell me how to do it. And I could do that and build up an entire LLM, an entire model that met my needs as a prototype by asking ChatGPT how to do it. And
So
now
that's
that we have,
kind of surprising. Like a lot of
yeah,
people use consultants or they get off the shelf software or they hire a bunch of people, programmers and stuff. So were you surprised by the power that that gave you to be able to build your own instead of having to use somebody else's or consultants?
absolutely. I mean, by treating it like a tutor, you can literally learn anything you want to put your energy into learning, and it truly democratizes access to parts of computer engineering, parts of computer programming that take years and years to accomplish in a real way. And I only wanted to do this much of it so I could learn how to do that much of it and execute it myself. But it's very powerful. And now that I have that understanding, now that I have built the prototype for what we want to eventually build, um, I know how to talk to programmers. I know how to talk to vendors that we want to bring in and build out larger parts of the section of the full stack for us.
I think this really illustrates the power of these tools is that, you
Yeah,
can really you can come in as a non-specialist. And I think a lot of us use Chat GPT to like we tell it what to do and like, please write this email or please, summarize this thing or whatever. But I love the way that you're thinking about it. It's like, no, you're the tutor, please explain it to me like I'm a fifth grader or something on and
basically.
set this up for me. Well, you're more than that, but I mean
I
explain
mean,
it.
on some things I'm not. On some things, there's a lot of jargon, there's a lot of vernacular that goes along with some of these fields, and I didn't know it. And so I would have to say, pretend I know absolutely nothing. Now teach it to me again.
Yeah. Well, I somehow escaped learning how to code in Python, because I'm old enough. And so now I don't have to.
Teach you. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Maddie, let's switch to you. So, what did redesigning for integration mean in practice? Give me an example of turning raw consumer trend data into something that's really assistant ready.
Yeah, of course. So as Rachel said, we did use these assist like the ChatGPT to teach us how to create these assistants. And one thing that we learned from ChatGPT was that these assistants aren't very good at interpreting spreadsheets. And in the past, at IFPA, we had always done a lot of consumer trends research, but this information was widely inconsistent and very broad. So we took a lot of that information and turned it into a consistent consumer tracker that goes out annually. And we took that information and turned it into something that the assistants can read, which is PowerPoint slides and PDFs. So for us to get the assistants to be able to read this information, we had to take that raw data that we got back from the tracker, the surveys that we were doing, and put it into spreadsheets and PowerPoints so that the assistant could read it easily and consistently and compare results across these different files that we were inputting because we made them consistently.
Do you think that will change? I mean, over time, because that's an extra step that you have to do. Do you think that will change that you won't have to do that?
Yes, I think AI is getting smarter and smarter every single day. It's changing every single day. There's something new for me and Rachel to learn. Every time we go into these assistants to change it, prototype it, make sure that it's working consistently. So I think that over time, this is definitely something that will change. But early on in us creating these assistants this year, that was a road hump that we had to get over was how do we make this data readable for the AI? So we did have to take that extra step, but I think in the future it will definitely.
And Maddie's being very modest right here. The consumer tracker that she fielded last year with our team um, is so much more complex than anything that we've done in the past, and that complexity was possible because we knew that we were going to be able to run AI over it and
Mm.
get insights from it that we would have been, a million reports in the past. Now we can get down to a level of demographic specificity, and country by country, hundreds of people responded across these different markets. We can get down to a specificity about how consumers feel about very specific produce trends that are very specific to our market in a way that has never been fielded before.
So I think it's interesting what you're talking about is really layering on your expertise and what we know is IFPA and kind of our judgment. So when you think about the balance between automation and human judgment, how do we work with that, especially in our space is so nuanced, and there has to be at least now, some of our judgment, and that's the value that we're adding is our judgment. So how do you think about the balance between those?
AI is a tool. It's a very powerful tool, but it's a tool that we as humans learn to use. And those of us that can figure it out and figure out new use cases and figure out how to use it effectively and in a smart way for our particular challenges are going to have an edge and going to be valuable no matter what AI can do because we're leading it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, one of the things that you're doing is not allowing it to go out into the world and just pick up any data that might be out there. So really controlling the space, of like this is the data that we're using because we know and trust this data. So use this data. I mean, I do that a lot on ChatGPT. It's like,
Yes,
no, use these four source. Do not go anywhere else. So it's
right.
knowing that you have to do things like that.
Right, and knowing the industry enough to weed out the nonsense,
Yeah.
because you get a lot of nonsense, and you do have to spend a ton of time making sure that the model that you're building is actually giving back answers that are accurate and usable by, in our case, our membership. We don't want to be giving them nonsense. So
That took a lot of training to do as well inside of the assistant to let them know who our members are, what information they would be looking at, the job levels that they could be at, the country. So that also took a lot of training inside of those assistants to make sure that the answers that they are giving are relevant to our industry.
So you said this shift is about moving from data dump to decision driver. Can you give an example of what that looks like for a member? Like you were saying, if you're a grower or a retailer or supplier, what does that look like that they're going to be able to get decision ready?
yeah, so and again, that's part of what we're building into these models. We could have we could create a model that just gives them the data, right? We could say like, they ask for sales of apples in 2024, give them that one number and that's it. But instead, what we're doing is you can adjust different parameters to let the model be a little bit more explanatory and pull in different data sources that relate to and give context to that Apple sales number. For example, I have layered in US production data, right? So if it's a good production year, right, you're going to have more supply. That's going to affect pricing. That's going to, maybe you're going to have more promotions around that item at retail to push more volume. That kind of thing is going to be explained and brought into play in the answer that our model gives.
So would that be like if someone comes in to ask a question, would you ask them like who they are, where they are in the supply chain, and then the model would be able to say, if no, well, if this is a retailer, they're going to be interested in this type of information. Are you trying to build that type of thing?
So Great question. At this point, yes. Eventually, um, because we have members that log into our website to get access to this. Once we get it live, and once we get it to talk to our Salesforce backend, um, it'll know
Oh,
what part
right.
of the industry they're in, and so it will be able to answer to them
Right. They won't even have to say
without
that.
saving the data. Like we're not keeping people's information or what they're talking about, but yeah, it'll have a lot more insight into who they are and what kind of answers they're looking for.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, what kind of member products are being developed? And I know you guys have come up to speed so fast, and you're building these tools. And so, and I also know that every time you talk about it internally, people want to know when you're going to launch something. So, just whatever you feel comfortable about, like what's launching soon, and what can you tell us about it, and kind of what's happening in the near future, anyway.
Yes. So we currently have a prototype for the consumer tracker that we are hoping is going to be live by the global show. So that will be live for all of our members during the global show. Currently, we're working with our web vendor to get that integrated onto our website, so it will be live. We're just working through a few little niches that we need to make sure it's pulling from the right data source, it's giving the correct answers. So we don't want to release it right now because we want to make sure that it's working correctly before we do that. But hopefully in October, that will be live for our members to use.
So they can use it on their own computers, or they'll have to come to our booth, or no, they can. It'll be live on their
Yeah, yeah.
computers. Excellent.
Yeah, and I'll be demoing my what I'm calling right now my fruit bot, which is going to have retail sales data, production data, that kind of stuff, which may or may not be live at that point. But yeah, we'll be demoing that at Global Show as well in the Tech Exchange.
So how are you measuring success? Are you looking at engagement or adoption or better decisions, or how will we know when we've done something good for our members and for the industry?
Well, certainly we want engagement, right? We want people using this thing. We want people coming back and saying, "Hey, that was really powerful." But it's kind of bigger than that. At an organizational level, part of our current strategic plan is to have personalized member engagement, and like I said, this provides that, right? This will allow you, member, eventually, um, to come into our website and be identified by who you are and what kind of needs you have in that part of the supply chain and those specific products that you typically deal with, and find the data and insights that you need to answer your business questions, right? That's a big kind of organizational transformation that this is going to be part of.
So, Maddie, one of the insights you pulled out is that 75% of Gen Z is driven to buy fresh produce for health reasons and 54% for sustainability. What does it take to surface a signal like that in a sea of noise? How did you find that?
So that is a insight that I pulled out for a presentation me and Rachel did at Quirks in New York City earlier this month, and it was just to showcase what a member could get from this tracker. So, what this does is it's exactly where AI becomes so powerful for our members because instead of digging through countless different reports and cross tabbing against the different demographics, in this case, Gen Z, the assistant allows our members to just ask a direct question, which in this case was, why do Gen Z buy fresh produce? And it pulls out the most relevant, statistically supported insight right away. So in that case, it was 75% of Gen Z is driven to buy fresh produce and 54% for sustainability. And this, it really, the assistant isn't just guessing. It's looking through the reports that we have put into it and it's reading those and it's surfacing a real signal that might have taken our members hours to compile manually and certainly would take us a long time to compile that manually as well. Even though we are the people that fielded this research, we compiled the reports. There are so many different reports, so many different demographics that we could go into. This could take us quite a while to do. So what used to be just a research projects now it can take just an assistant a couple seconds to just pull out that insight and make it an implication for our members. It's not just about the insight, it's about the action that that can bring. So it's not just about digging through all these reports, it's what does this mean for you?
So what might be like if someone got that information, which is amazing piece of information, then I'm thinking about, okay, I sell apples, say. So what would I do differently in my marketing plan, if I'm trying to hit this health reason, with the second bullet point of sustainability. So is that something that can that happen within the tools that you're coming, or would they take that information and then ask ChatGPT on their own, or come up with a marketing?
This is something that the assistants will be able to answer. So you'll say, I'm an Apple retailer and I want to know what this means for sustainability. Because we built this assistant and we put the research into it, it also has business implications in there. So it will tell you what you can do as a marketer, what you can do as a retailer based off of this sustainability statistic.
Wow, that's super powerful.
Yeah,
Um,
it really is. Yeah, we're excited.
yeah. You've called this shift from curiosity to capability. What's next in the capability arc at IFPA?
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, we started this project in January, learning how
That's almost absurd, Rachel.
it's ridiculous. But so we literally started working on this in January, in terms of actually building models and learning how the models worked, and like I said, going at it with curiosity, like what can a model do? What can we adjust to serve our members? What parameters can we kind of rein in to constrain what outputs they get? So again, we're giving them actual valuable information, not something that the model found on Twitter. Um, and so we have a much broader understanding of what the capabilities are for this long term. Um, at this point, Maddie and I are building assistants, right? We're building bots. We're eventually going to integrate them so that mine talks to hers, and you ask about apples, and it's going to tell you, not just what retail sales are doing and production is what's happening in production, but also how people feel about them. What are the biggest export countries, or import countries? Uh, what are the consumers in those markets doing around apples, and what's most important to them? Which, of course, if you're a grower, is super significant. Like we said, if sustainability is a main driver of Gen Z consumption habits, then you're going to want to probably bump up your efforts in that area, right? Um, so, we're integrating that. We're integrating more data sets. We're eventually going to integrate um, climate conditions, weather patterns, trade data into this bot. But we're also going to, have it part of a broader kind of presence on our website, at freshproduce.com, and so people can go, and they might not be going to our website for insights. They might be going to our website for questions about registration, or questions about their membership, or questions about um, I don't know, any of the content that we've ever produced, food safety, sustainability.
Technology, perhaps.
Exactly. Any technology, yes. Questions about a fabulous podcast that we produce, and all of that will be integrated, right? So we're at this stage. Maddie and I have really hit the ground running, and we've just been kind of said, given carte blanche, go learn, go do, prototype, teach us as an organization where we can go, and right now we're at the point where we're bringing in vendors to beef up the stack that we've already established. And also, as an organization, senior leadership team is coming in and saying, okay, like now we're ready to build something organization wide. We're at the point where they're contracting for that. So we sprinted, and now the organization is ready to really launch and make this a unified system for IFPA and for our members.
Maddie, what's the one thing about building AI for this industry that surprised you or made you kind of rethink how decisions are made?
I think that it's back to what Rachel said a few minutes ago. It's really using the AI to build the AI. That really surprised me. Once we learned that we can ask it questions to teach us how to build this, it was like a light bulb really went off for our team. Once we realized that, we made a lot of progress. So that was definitely something that surprised me because I went into it kind of thinking the same as everybody else. Oh, it can summarize these PDFs for me. It can write an email. It can schedule emails for me. But I didn't realize that it could teach me. So that was a huge surprise, and it made me rethink how decisions are made because of this. Before I was just kind of going in and thinking, "Oh, maybe this is how I do it." But then I would go back and I would double check with AI, "Hey, if I do it this way and I want this outcome, how do I get there?" And it would do a lot of teaching me there. So it was a lot of instead of just Googling, I would ask the AI, which really took us a long way.
So if I'm a member listening to this right now, what's the one thing I should be doing today to get smarter with this next wave of tools? So besides using our tools that we're building, is there anything that you would suggest to members?
I would say really go into it with a super big open mind and use it as a tool, right? Ask the questions, ask it to teach you, throw any business question you have, any question you have at it and say, what can you do? What would you do? And see what it says, and then dive into that. It's incredibly powerful, right? Like I can go into my model right now and say, what are your capabilities, and it'll come back to me and tell me everything that it can do, and sometimes it can do more than I've even taught it to do. And that's what's extraordinary. But I think that the amount that this can increase your efficiency, your capabilities, your capacity in how you do your work is extraordinary. And if you're not engaging with it, you should try it.
I've been so impressed with what you all have done, like you said, since January. And I remember when you first started this, I said to some of our folks internally, like, why are they doing that? We should be hiring people to do this. And because
Fair enough. Yeah.
it just seemed like it was going to burn up a bunch of your time learning. And like, why not bring someone in who already knows? But I think what we've talked about a lot so far is just like you just use the tool to learn so that we didn't have to bring in those people. So I think it's amazing what you guys have built. And I think it's interesting to look at it a couple of ways. One is other people could build this tool that you're doing, but they don't have the data that IFPA has, and they don't have the broad kind of nuance and understanding of the industry of how to filter through and how to ask the right questions. So this is definitely member value that you've created that people have a place to go and ask these questions where they're not going to get hallucinations. They're not going to get weird data that, is floating around on the internet. They're going to get real usable information that they can base that they and even decisions. It will tell them decisions, and then what do
Right.
they do with it? And also, I think just what I wanted to get out of this conversation is for people to hear how someone who's not a programmer, smart people that have some questions to ask and are curious can go into some of these tools and really learn on, what they can do within their own organizations.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the other thing is, Bonnie, the technology has changed so much even from January that even if we had asked somebody back in January to do this for us, we'd be doing outdated stuff,
Interesting.
right?
Yeah.
It's that this is the bleeding edge of this technology, and it will continue to be the bleeding edge of this technology for a while. Until the companies that are doing market research, companies that are doing setting up AI assistants for organizations like ours, they're not like really farther along than we are in their understanding of how to use this tool. So that's why we're bringing in vendors to build certain parts of the stack, but we're still kind of keeping ahead of where the technology is and what the capabilities are ourselves as well.
Maddie, anything you want to add before we close up?
I would just say use it.
Yeah.
Definitely go in there, use it. It can be scary, but nothing's gonna happen. Just
Yeah.
ask questions. if you
You
don't
can ask it.
understand,
You can ask it to be really polite to you, though, so it'll
yeah,
be less scary. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Ask questions. Have it give you answers, and if you don't understand, ask how did you get this answer, and it really goes in deep. So I would just say don't be scared of the tool. Definitely use it.
Well, thank you both for being on the podcast and also the work that you're pioneering within IFPA for the organization and for our membership. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Vonnie.
you.